Welcome to the We Survived Another Season edition of Sharing Socks. I'm duty geezer Leigh Allan, with me my son, and whilst he is in Chicago performing in Ashland Avenue at the Goodman Theatre, next room correspondent Will. And we've tried this before. We don't seem to have enough internet just within our condo for this to work for any length of time, but we'll give it a shot. uh, Sox season over, another 100 plus losses. No surprise, anticipated. Some good things, a lot of bad things. And the Sox kind of went with a boom as soon as the season was over. I mean, they didn't wait for anything and fired four coaches.
Cleaned house, cleaned house. Most surprising, certainly being Ethan Katz, which the internet has had a lot of opinions about. Some people are intensely mourning the departure of Ethan Katz, and the other half are telling them to shut up because he didn't actually do anything.
Well, I'm gonna write about Ethan Katz within the next few days and how I judged Don Cooper when he got canned, because I was not a Cooper fan after about 2012. I just thought he quit. And he was phoning it in, and he was using his connection to Jerry Reinsdorf to just try to run everything. And the stat I did was, and I've started doing this with Katz, but I haven't gone far enough. Is did pitchers who come improve? Did pitchers who left get better or worse?
Oh,
Uh, and in the case of Cooper, it was a resounding negative. Not total. Some pitchers got better when they came to the White Sox, but mostly not. With Katz, so far, it is overwhelming that they get better when they come to the White Sox. It's mostly that they get worse when they leave. Not totally. Renato Lopez being a huge example of the reverse. But for the most part, it shows the pattern that he's doing his job. And this year, this is a scrap heap pitching department.
yeah.
I mean, it's just picking up. Yes, we did great with Rule 5 picks. But Rule 5 picks have been discarded by somebody for a reason. And that refers to our best starter, Shane Smith, and our best reliever, Mike Vassell, both Rule 5 picks. Uh, and yet they were terrific. At,
Yeah, I think it's a very hard thing to actually judge. Just because a lot of your guys who you see getting better are young who should be getting better. Most guys when they come up, they're not in peak MLB form. They got to learn how to get there, and it certainly seems like Katz wasn't hindering any of that, and was quite possibly helping them in that department. The Rule 5 guys, they're good. I'm not sure. I'm not even sure I'm sold on Smith. Started out really, really strong. Obviously pitched a lot more than he's used to pitching, which, everybody kind of tanked towards the end of the season, and that's to be expected when you have a lot of guys who haven't pitched that much. Um, I'm a little surprised Katz was let go now. I'm not shocked that they parted ways with them, but I'm a little shocked that they parted ways with them after this season and not potentially after next season or the season after, just because I don't feel like we have a true sample size on what he's able to do with pitchers who should be playing Major League Baseball. And I'm not convinced we've had many pitchers who should be playing Major League Baseball. So he's done a very good job, I think, with guys who maybe shouldn't be playing Major League Baseball and making them look a little bit like they should be. And, you know, if that's a reason to let someone go, then that's okay. But I'm a little surprised of the timing. I wasn't expecting it right now. I was expecting it more when the team was a little more developed and ready to win, which we're nowhere close
no,
to
we're at least a
being.
couple of years away, probably three at least. Uh, yeah, of course, a manager is entitled to his staff. Uh, Maybe Venable has a guy. We don't know that yet. Maybe there, but it's when you have an experienced manager come in, they may come in with a guy who's been their pitching coach before and they really loved and they really get along and they agree on philosophies, uh, training methods, and all kinds of things like that. We have a guy who's never managed before at a team that is not a desirable place to come to work.
Right.
Uh, I don't know who he's going to get. He has to have somebody in mind. He has
That's
to.
why I'm confused on the timing, because if you bring in Venable, why did Katz stay for this year?
Yeah. Why
Uh,
didn't he come? Why didn't he come with his guy? Yes.
yeah, that's why the timing's confusing. And it's also possible that, the people above Venable were like, we're not sure about you enough yet to say, let's bring in all of
It is.
your
Yes.
people.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm not sold on Venable. I mean, he didn't. There's certainly no reason to let him go after this year. There's no reason to let anyone go when you're coming in after a 121 loss season. And they did end with what, 102? So 19 fewer losses with arguably some worse players. You don't have Crochet at all this season. Um, so I do think he did a nice enough job to earn a second season. I'm just a little surprised his staff didn't come in before this. But I'll be interested to see who does come in. I'm interested to see who Venable thinks would come into this mess. But it is Major League Baseball. Guys want to work in Major League Baseball, and maybe he's got a guy, and the White Sox think that guy's worth taking a flyer on. I do think Katz is going to land on his feet, no
Oh,
pun intended.
very
But
good.
wow, that
Even if
really
he
worked
falls out
out.
of a story window, he's going to land on his feet.
Wow, that one fell in my lap. Um, he's a lap cats, and I think he's going to land on his feet, and he's going to be a pitching coach somewhere else. I do think that. But I'll be interested to see who they bring in. And they wiped out four coaches. The other three coaches, I'm kind of like, meh, whatever on.
It's really surprising Marcus Temps continued into this year. It was
Yeah,
surprising he wasn't gone after last year. Jason Bourgeois, first base coach, what does he matter? We didn't have a bunch of guys picked off first base, so apparently that
right.
wasn't a problem. Outfield coach, outfield defensively, meh. Uh, and
But you
Drew
can't even
Matic,
blame
I did
him.
see the catcher coach because
Yeah,
we've got the two catchers, Kyle Teal doing excellently at the plate, uh, and Edgar doing pretty well at the plate.
yeah,
Uh, both terrible defensively. Van Graff's has Carroll at the very bottom of all the catchers. Teal on the negative side, but not too far down. It's they're bad defensively. Part of it now, for example, throwing out base runners, I think they were each around 17%. The league average is 22, 23%. Part of that is our pitchers can't keep anybody on base. How many
right.
times the guy steal and you look at the replay and he's halfway to second, the ball's just now coming to the plate. Uh, it that's on the pitchers. Maybe that was the thing with Katz. You didn't teach these guys enough. I don't know.
I mean,
But our
they were
pitchers,
truly terrible at keeping people close to first base. Like
right.
it was laughable at times. The leads guys were
Oh,
getting. It was
they were
just
almost standing on second, or third.
crazy. Yeah, I can't blame the catchers for that. And then also next year with the catchers, we have some changes to the rules of the game, which will be interesting because framing will be a little less important next year since the challenge system will come in. It'll be interesting to see how that affects. Framing to me is a statistic that I'm always just like, we
I
need to
wish
get,
it didn't exist. I wish
yeah,
the whole
we could
idea
care less
didn't
about it.
exist.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah. I
it'll be
agree with that.
interesting to see when framing becomes a little less important next year, how that changes. Because framing for me has always been like, sleight of hand magic shouldn't be a major catcher qualification. I think, there's just other aspects
Yeah,
of being
but
a
It,
great
it
catcher that
goes
are
down to
so
all
much.
levels, though. When I took a semester long course in coaching baseball, when I was coaching baseball at the University of Dayton, from Tony Vittorio, who was the head coach there. And at the time, had a very good team. And one day he brought in his guy who coaches catchers, and he was showing us, this is what you're looking for. This is what you're supposed to teach your catchers to do. And one of the things he spent time on was framing. Now he's teaching people not to coach college, I guess maybe some of them, but most of our coaching, like high school kids, is what I coached. Uh, so it was framing on down the line, uh, even with very amateur umpires back there. It's interesting. Now, to get back, to the ratings, one thing I wanted to bring up: Baseball Reference does a wins above average by position for each team. White Sox pitchers were right in the middle, both relievers and starters. And remember, before the season, the evaluators were saying this is the worst bullpen we've ever seen in our lives.
Yeah,
Now, that was before Mike Vassell, which made a huge difference. And I
huge.
think it may have been before Steven Wilson was in there. But still, they came out average, which for the White Sox, and the White Sox said, hey, average, we'll take average. It's average.
Yeah, absolutely. At this point of the process, if you're getting an average bullpen, that's great. I mean, you don't need a great bullpen until it's winning time. So, and then you got to make sure you have a great bullpen at that point, which makes me nervous about the White Sox. But yeah, taking league average, I think is great. It shows that your pitchers were improving or kind of holding their ground. Nobody was getting worse, and you were getting quality starts here and there. And I wasn't upset about the pitching. Now, the pitching is a thing, and I talk about this with my White Sox buddies a lot. The pitching is a thing where we're not going to win in 3 years unless we're willing to spend some money on pitching. We need so many pitchers, and position players, we kind of have some interesting stuff going on there. We kind of have some cool things in the pipeline, and guys who came up this year and did a really nice job for being so young and playing Major League Baseball. But pitchers, we don't have anyone in the system who's looking like they're going to come up and be a one or a two starter at all.
Well,
And
no, obviously Noah Schultz and Hagen Smith both have the ability.
sure,
Both have a very hard time finding the strike zone. Uh, Noah got hurt a couple times this year, which was not a good sign. He's got knee problems. Uh, Smith finished strong. He had a real good game in the playoffs to help Birmingham win the Southern League Championship. But basically, I mean, he's just got real control problems. But those guys, they're not next year.
no,
They may come up late in the year. If they start the season on the team, something's wrong. But
totally.
those presumably will be your 1 and 2 starters in 2 or 3 years. But prospects, the percentage of hot prospects who work out is relatively small. I think it's two-thirds of the top, 50 or whatever in baseball uh, don't succeed for any length of time in the major leagues. So yeah, there's that. And
Yeah, I
when we
mean, if
talk
you're
about,
telling me we've got two guys in the minor league system that'll come up and be the one and two, I'm telling you, you're out of luck. You got to be telling me you got six guys in the system who can come up and be a one and two, and then maybe you'll get a one or a two out of those six guys because, unless you're dealing with a Paul Skeens kind of scenario, nothing is even close to a given in Major League Baseball when it comes to developing pitchers. There's just nothing that's a given,
no,
especially when you're talking
and
about
I should say amongst the starting pitchers where we got the ranking of just being averaging 15, 16, something like that, by far the best starting pitcher by WAR was Adrian Hauser, and
right.
he's not.
Yeah. And he was kind of, playing above he was fighting above his weight a little bit this
He
year.
was for sure.
Had a
And again,
really,
a
really good
credit
year.
I think to Ethan Katz, but
Right, yeah, and that's quite possible. It's quite possible that Katz did do something well for Hauser. Or Hauser knew, man, I gotta really go lights out so I can play for a different team by the end of the year. Which is a smart move when you're coming to the White Sox at this point of your career. Let's talk about position players a little bit.
I'll go back into the baseball reference rankings. The catchers did very well. Out of 30 teams, they were ranked eighth or ninth, despite their defensive woes, because they hit much better than your average catcher hits,
Yeah,
especially Teal, but Carroll too. Then it's nothing. Then it drops down. Now, last year, we had 30th and 29th in many positions. Not the case this year, but there was nobody else, I think, above 22nd. So everything's in the bottom third of the majors at every position. Some of
Yeah,
them as far down as 28 or so. Uh, Now, first base, for example, dragged down by the fact that Andrew Vaughn forgot to play like a Hall of Famer until he went to Milwaukee. Um,
correct.
so his horrible first half of the year, first two-thirds of the year, drags that down. But no position came out well, none of them, and not even with Colson Montgomery's big finish at shortstop, which was very strong. Uh,
Yeah,
the 3.5 WAR in 71 games. Uh, but so it's a weak team across the board. Now
yeah.
I think it's no longer a disastrous team across the board, which it was last year, but it ain't there.
But you also have to keep in mind that so many of these guys were so young. You know,
Yes.
this was definitely watching Colson Montgomery this year. One, we know now the power is real. The power is real. You know, he's hitting the ball 450 feet, and he's had what 20 home runs in 71 games or something like that.
21.
Yeah, the power is real. Um, you know, he came up, he was hot, he struggled, he got back on track. I think Colson Montgomery did exactly what you needed Colson Montgomery to do this year. I absolutely believe that because now he should theoretically just get more comfortable with the speed of the game at the major league level and get better and better. I don't think he's going to become an elite defensive anything, but if he can be league average as a defender and knock 45 home runs, that's a guy anyone wants on their team.
Oh, absolutely.
Anybody wants that guy. So he showed a lot of potential for me this year.
What I really liked about Colson, and I hope this continues going forward, is when he was in the minors, when early in the season, we were saying this is his last chance.
Yeah,
He's done. He's going to be coaching high school. The way he started the season in Charlotte, and then he went off, taken off to the 2 weeks with our system hitting instructor in Arizona, and came out of it gangbusters. Comes to the majors, absolutely terrorizes major league pitching, goes into a slump, a pretty bad slump, and something happened, and he came out of it. It appears that he really takes instruction well.
yeah,
He listens to instruction. He reacts to instruction. He knows how to make the adjustments that he's instructed to make. Uh, I really like that because that's going to happen. He's a rookie. It's going to happen a lot next year.
oh yeah,
Whole careers, but certainly early in careers. So I really like that about him. Defensively, he did much better than I thought, or I think much of anybody else thought.
yeah,
He's never going to wow you with a beautiful plays. I think his very first game, he made that catch running straight out to left field over the head, which is, as you know, and I know from having played shortstop, that ain't easy.
that's the hardest plays you'll get. Yeah,
It was an amazing play, but he settled out. He was fine. He caught what he should catch. He didn't wow anybody. He's not Ellie De La Cruz or Bobby Witt Jr. How did he do that? But as long as he makes the standard plays, it's okay. We have guys uh, in the system. The two of the top draft picks were shortstops last year. It's supposed to be defensive wows. Bergoya, who was in Birmingham, uh, was Player of the Year, I think, Southern Association. William Bergoya, he could be up before the end of next year,
yeah, definitely.
uh, and maybe move Montgomery to third base. Maybe not. But probably better with Montgomery at third and a sharper defensive shortstop. But he's fine in the interim. There's no reason to say, "Oh no, kid, you got to move over just for the heck of it." No reason for that. Uh, yeah. So okay. That's one position taken care of. What about the
The
others?
other ones. Well, I do think Chase is going to be a serviceable second baseman at the major league level. You know, second base is a much more forgiving position than shortstop, and you know, he's still young. And the thing obviously Sosa at first base is just a massive defensive liability at all times, but if he can hit, he can hit. I'm not convinced he can hit really. Uh, he
Yeah,
he did well. He was a good. He might be a good transition guy till we find a real first baseman. Um,
Lenine came in right average, league average in OPS, which is not a be all and end all measurement, but he's a power hitter if he's a hitter, and it's a good measure for those guys. They had 22 homers. That's not bad, but being an average league hitter and playing second base, hey, that's pretty good. Being an average league hitter and playing first base, that's not good.
Not
That's where you're supposed to
what
have
you,
your hitter. So, and of course he doesn't play first base well either. But a lot of guys don't play first base well. That's not unusual.
yeah.
Chase was under average in OPS. I think about 700 he ended up with the big finish. But I think OPS is very unfair. Well, it's kind of used as the main measurement these days. I think it's very unfair to singles hitters.
Totally, totally.
A guy
Yeah,
could hit 300, have a 400 on base percentage. His OPS is 700, and his OPS plus is 94 or something. And he's an incredibly valuable player because he's the guy who's on there when the big guys come up. He's somebody to knock in. So it's very unfair to those guys. But still, for the guys who are middling or better in the power department, it's a good measurement.
yeah, I agree. I agree. We should take a break here. We'll come back, we'll keep chatting, and then we have playoff baseball starting this
Yes.
afternoon.
I
Uh,
should have said that we were recording this on Tuesday morning, September the 30th, and the wild card games start within
start
hours.
in about 40 minutes. We'll get the Central matchup of the wild card round, which we should talk about. So hang in there. We'll be right back on Sharing Stocks. Welcome back to Sharing Stocks. First half, we talked about the big news from yesterday. We dissected this team. Before we move on from dissecting the squad, we should talk about the thing we haven't talked about yet, which is the outfield. Uh, I don't know who's going to play outfield.
Well, you're stuck with Benintendi. Nobody's taking Benintendi, so that's your left fielder slash DH, and it really drags down your defense because
Yeah,
he's horrible. Luis, I think they're going to have to take the option
you have
because
to.
because they had the chance in July to get something. You can't just give him the buyout, the $2 million buyout at this point, and get nothing.
Right,
I mean,
because somebody's going to pick
that
them
makes
up.
Getz look like an absolute idiot if that happens. So he has to spend the money, and I'm fine with spending Jerry's money. I hope they spend lots of Jerry's money.
Me
Uh,
too.
I hope Jerry goes broke and loses his whole $2.5 billion that he's worth, or whatever it is. But so Luis is back for a while. I don't think anybody's going to take him in the offseason at $20 million.
No, no.
Uh,
But we do open this window again for if Luis can get it together
oh
in
yeah,
April and
yeah.
May,
It'll be the fourth straight time. Yeah.
fourth straight time. This is getting old, and I'm sure the league executives are buying into it less and less. But it is still possible that he could come out and get you something at the deadline. Now, 3 years of playing this game is going to make that offer just naturally way smaller than it could have been in the past. But if he comes out hot, if he comes out, and one thing I do want to talk about too with this team is we did see a lot of guys who look like they like playing baseball this year,
Yeah,
and
I
that
mean,
felt
yeah, we
very
should do that as a whole thing. It's a much better team than 2024. Not
yeah.
just in winning more games. It's a much better team. You watch that team, and they look like they knew what they were doing on the field. They did not look like that in 2024. It looked like they were very confused. Sosa's still very confused, but other people look like they know where they're going. They know where the throw is supposed to go. They know what they're supposed to cover. They know where the cutoff man is. All that kind of stuff. It was much better grade of baseball.
And they looked like they enjoyed suiting up and playing the game.
Yes.
And that felt very different from 2024, of course, but also felt different from 2023. That this felt like a team that was like, okay, we know we're not great, but we can win on any given day, and we're going to try to win on any given day. And it was just a way more watchable team
And
and
they're individuals who are fun to watch. Mydroth, we've talked about
fun to
Bruce
watch.
Baldwin. A lot of
Yeah,
fun to watch play the game.
yeah.
Um,
So it gave me a lot of hope actually moving forward that the tone in the clubhouse must be way better. And they kind of knew that they were just underdogs this year. The main goal for this season was
survived.
really was try not to lose 100 was the main goal, but the huge overarching goal was don't lose 122. And they did beat that goal, by 19 games. They came out. They were a young team, an inexperienced team, and they won, a lot more games than they did last year. So I'm not totally bummed at the end of this year. Obviously, it's boring to watch 102 losses, but it did look like a bunch of guys who fought till the end of games. They tried to win games, and I think you could see some excitement in them that maybe this is going to be a winning team in a couple of years. And maybe next year they're going to lose 90 games. And the year after that, maybe we're talking about being 500 or better. So it was interesting to see that. And I was happy to see that throughout the season.
Finishing the outfield, Luis in center until whatever day they trade him. They will trade him this time.
They'll trade him for whatever now. Yeah.
Yeah, unless he's hitting. Well, I mean, if he's hitting 380, then they'll trade him for a lot. But
Right.
probably just trade him for whatever they could have traded him for over the last 2 years. Talkman and Wright, strange, even though he's 34, he's actually had his service time is such that he's actually has an arbitration year coming up. So they have team control.
Yeah.
I think they'll keep him. I mean, they've been like, well, we won because of his leadership, and this leadership baloney. Same thing with Martin Perez. Yeah, that's nice that they're great to the kids. I'm glad they are. It's wonderful, but that's not why you're paying somebody millions of dollars to play baseball. Um,
I
Talkman is a holder until Braden Montgomery is ready for the majors.
totally. I think you keep him until you don't need to keep him because he did some really exciting things this year and he was fun to watch and I like his energy. I feel like he loves the game. I think you keep him until it doesn't make sense to keep him. But right now, it makes sense to keep him around and keep him playing. He came through in some big moments, and it's important to see a 34-year-old have big moments when you're playing on a team with a bunch of young 20s guys. Leadership is only important to an extent, but you know, 24-year-olds listen to 34-year-olds in some way or another. And so it's important that the 34-year-olds on your team be good guys who are excited about the game and who are actively trying to get better themselves, which is a boat that Talkman's in. And I think that that's fun to watch. I think he's valuable to have on the team as a transition player until you get to Braden Montgomery. And I think he's a no-brainer to hold on to because he's not going to be
Yeah,
expensive.
I agree that you hold. Well, I think you have to because your alternatives are to put Baldwin or Dominic Fletcher out there, and you're going to
Right.
need them at center field as soon as Luis tries to run to first and comes out hobbling, which will be about game 10. Um, yeah, I happened to cover. I happened to cover the game where Talkman made the three amazing plays in one game. One dive to the right, one dive to left, and the one where he went flying into the net, catching the ball on the way, bounced into the seats, but within the net, and came
Yeah.
back with the ball. That was fun.
Well, let's talk about what's going on elsewhere in the league because playoff baseball starts in a half hour. And I mean, the AL Central, what a ride. What a ride. Talk about something that seemed like it was over and done with in July. And we have a different AL champ than we were expecting. And now they're going to play each other in the first round. That is going to be a heated wild card. I mean, the wild card series in the AL, does it get any better? You're going to
No,
have
well, I mean, Red Sox
Cleveland.
Yankees is
Yeah, Red
the
Sox, Yankees.
TV people are salivating over
Yeah.
the fact that they've got Red Sox Yankees.
And then weirdly, they're probably salivating more than they expected on this Detroit Cleveland thing because it ended up being the most dramatic finish in the league. Detroit's collapse is historical, and it's going to be really interesting to see if they can recover over the next 2 to 3 games to move on and say, I think we deserve to be here. We are the team you thought we were. But I think Cleveland's going to keep going. I
I
do.
do too. Screwball, they may lose game one. Detroit may win game one because of Screwball. Although Cleveland beat him last time, not
Cleveland beat them
him
last
personally,
time.
but what won his game in extra innings. But yeah, I think even if Screwball does Screwball and goes 9 innings in game number one, Cleveland takes it then in three. I think Cleveland takes it. And one of the things, and we've got my favorite manager ever is Terry Francona. We'll get to that in the National League side. But we can have this is a team that Francona had a lot to do with developing the Cleveland
Oh,
team.
yeah.
And it's being managed by an acolyte. I mean, that was his guy. That was his bench coach, right? Got
Yeah.
voted. So you've got really good management. Not that AJ Hinch is bad, but I think he's be outmanaged. Um, just in the way the players are ready to go.
I think AJ Hinch is
Just
a
really
brilliant
get players
manager.
ready to go.
I think Hinch is a brilliant manager when his players are firing on all cylinders. And right now, he does not have that. He does not have that. And I think Cleveland is the opposite, where they manage their players best when they are up against the wall and facing that kind of adversity. And that's exactly what they're dealing with.
No,
Cleveland is not the more talented team. They're
Cleveland's got
not the more talented
fine
team.
pitching, almost no hitting. I really hope for Jose Ramirez. I mean, he's one of my probably two or three favorite players going in baseball. Other,
Of
with
course.
no White Sox connection, and yeah, I mean, I just hope for him they win a series and maybe win another one somehow. And I think if they do win, it'll be because of Jose Ramirez.
Yeah, I mean, I would love for them to win it all so that Jose Ramirez gets a ring because when they interview players about who their favorite player is in Major League Baseball, so many guys say Jose Ramirez. And I mean, that says so much when you look at the talent in the league, and so many guys are saying that Jose Ramirez is underrated and might be the best player in baseball. Uh, that's exciting. I hope great success. I know they are our rivals, but until we are of rivalry status, I think it's okay to root for them.
And
Who do
he'll
you
be
got?
retired by then, so it's fair.
Yeah. Who do you got in Boston versus New York?
Well, preseason, it was kind of a quick thing at the end of one of our shows that you said, who's going to win? Who's going to win in each league? Right before the beginning of the season. And I think I immediately said, well, I don't see how you can stop the Dodgers in the National League. And then in the American League, you said, who you got? I really hadn't thought about it for some reason. And I blurted out Boston.
Yeah.
I I realize the Yankees are the favorites. I realize the 3 games are in Yankee Stadium. I like Boston. I think Garrett Crochet is going to shut him down in game one, and somehow the Red Sox will win either game two or three. I hope it's game two because in game three, Carlos Rodon's going to be pitching for the Yankees. And I don't want him to be the guy who loses uh, their season at the end because I love Carlos. But yeah, I hope it's Boston, and I actually think it'll be Boston. I've looked at these, the Athletic, ESPN, whatever. They have their experts go down, and they'll have 11 guys making picks. It wasn't that big a split as you'd expect. You'd expect maybe 90% Yankees. It was maybe 60% Yankees. Uh,
I'm gonna agree. I'm gonna take Boston in that series. It's all about, there's so much that's just, and the Yankees have been hot as well, but the
oh,
Yankees
great.
have kind of ridden success the whole season, and they're coming off of last year of making it to the World Series. They do have a chip on their shoulder for giving us the worst inning in the history of baseball against the Dodgers in Game Five, but. Uh, I'm taking Boston here. I think Boston is primed and ready. I think Cleveland's primed and ready, and I think we're going to see Cleveland and Boston win these. Now in the National League today, we're going to have the Padres at the Cubs, which is a very interesting series. I The Padres are designed to win in it's September, but we're going to say October, because they have a powerhouse bullpen. They've got a few good starters who are going to be ready to go, and they have some explosive players. They're going to be playing at Wrigley. The Cubs have not been hot. The Cubs have, kind of sort of puttered their way in. They're still
And they've
very
lost the best pitcher. Best pitcher's out with broken ribs.
exactly. So I hate to say it because in my time working for the Dodgers, I decidedly became very anti-Padres. But I do think the Padres are going to have a good shot to take this series. I don't like the Cubs. I'm sure it's on record on this podcast how much I
Well,
don't like the
we're White
Cubs.
Sox fans. We can't like the Cubs. That's the rule.
I
I,
don't.
I live a mile from Wrigley Field, but I can't stand them.
I like this Cubs team more than I have liked many, and it could be Craig Counsell syndrome because I love Craig Counsell, but I do think the Padres are going to take this one. What do you think?
Uh, we'll agree. We'll agree.
And then
And
the
and
series,
I think we may have a good influence from an ex-White Sox because Dylan Cease has not had a good year, but he is capable of total domination on a given day, and I think we may see that.
yeah.
I mean, obviously watched the Cubs Sox series on TV, and I wasn't impressed. Now the Cubs did recover and do better toward the very end, but I wasn't impressed with this offense that was supposed to be so incredibly good um,
Well,
against pitching.
a lot of it's going to depend on Pete Crow Armstrong because you can't have a guy who was hotter who then became less hot like that. He went into the slump of the year, and if he can bust out of that, then we have a series. And if he can't bust out of that, if he can't be the first half Pete Crow Armstrong, then I think the Padres are going to have a really good chance of rolling this one in two
And
games.
particularly if Tucker doesn't seem completely recovered from injury, uh, that
Right.
can be a point too.
Now, the series that I think is the most interesting is that the Cincinnati Reds, who somehow eked their way into this postseason,
Backed in, losing on the
backed in
last day and still made it.
because the Mets decided they saw what was happening at Detroit and they were like, okay, we can have a collapse and people won't talk about it quite as much because of what's going on in Detroit. The Mets also had a historical collapse, and that allowed the Reds to squeeze in. They are going to go to Los Angeles to shockingly play a Dodgers team that has to play in the first round. And this is crazy. I think the Reds are going to kick the Dodgers out of the playoffs.
Strangely, I was going to say, and we were going to have an argument because now, first of all, we should point out I lived more than 30 years in Reds turf. The first 18 years of your life were in Reds turf and never became a Reds fan. In my case, moving in as an adult, hated all that big red machine stuff. But being a fan of other teams is disgusting. I can't become a Reds fan. But now we have this situation where your sister still lives in the Cincinnati area. Your nephew, my grandson, who, thank God, he's carrying on a family. He loves baseball. Yeah, that's his thing. Everything he wants to do is baseball. Terrific. And of course, he's a Reds fan. He went to Ellie De La Cruz's camp for a week, and has pictures taken with Ellie and everything. Uh, so, for Paulson's sake, got to say they're going to do this. Now, the Dodgers, of course, part of their problem is horrific bullpen. They're moving Clayton Kershaw, and somebody else is going back there. Sasaki. I'll say no.
Well, and I don't think Kershaw's even on the wild card roster. I think Kershaw got booted, and he'll be on the divisional roster for sure. But he pitched the last game of the season. You can't really use him
Oh, right. Yeah.
today. You can't really use. I mean, he's my age. You can't really use him the next few days. So he's not going to be there. Sasaki is going to be in the bullpen for the Dodgers, but Sasaki's not proven by any means. He's a child, and he's obviously a great talent, but He's one of those things where he's never pitched in situations like that, and it's certainly going to be intense. I think the Reds pitching is actually lined up better for this series in a lot of ways. Now, the big problem for the Reds is can they hit the ball?
Yeah,
And
they don't hit much of anything at all. But some days it happens. You win 3-2.
yeah, and I think this series has two ways that it can pan out. And I think it is that the Reds are going to win two games with scores of 4-3, 3-2, or they're going to lose two games 11-1 and
Yeah.
9-2. And, the Dodgers offense is still capable of just putting up a massive amount of runs. But I love that the Reds have Hunter Green going. I know the Dodgers have Blake Snell going today. But Hunter Green, I think this is his time on the national stage to really show what he's got. And then tomorrow, it's going to be a much harder task for the Reds in game two because they're going to face Yamamoto. And Yamamoto certainly showed the world this year that he is a major league ace. And the Reds are going to be putting out Littell, who on any given day is also a major league ace. It just depends which version of him you get on that day. Uh, so it's going to be a really interesting thing. I think if it makes it to game three, the Reds could be in a lot of trouble. I think they need to win games one and two to survive this series. But I don't know. I think there's something about how big of an underdog they're going to be a massive underdog in this series. And
Well,
I
yeah. And on those polls I was telling you about, where somebody gets 60% of them went Yankees and 54% of them went Cleveland or whatever. It's over 90% Dodgers.
and how could it not be?
Yeah.
I don't think that's misguided.
No.
Uh I just personally think that we're going to see the Reds level up a little bit in this series. And I'm going to be eating this so hard on the next podcast when the Dodgers win the first two games by 35 runs. But
You
uh,
won't either because it's the same, and I'm just doing it probably emotionally picking the Reds to do it. But
I'm 100% emotionally picking the Reds to do
and
it.
I really, we talk about favorite players. Go to a favorite young player is Ellie De La Cruz. Yes, he does not grade out well as a shortstop because he makes a lot of errors because he goes 40 feet to get a ball and then throws it
Yeah,
away.
throws it away. Yeah,
But boy, he's fun to watch. Just
he's so fun
speed,
to watch.
that kind of speed, it's so much fun to watch.
And I'm
Uh,
just glad that we're going to see him in the postseason. I'm just excited that we're going to get to see Ellie De La Cruz in prime time against the Dodgers. I think he's going to rise to that moment as well. And, if Ellie De
he had
La
a
Cruz
big
is
slump.
on base,
He
they're
had a
going to have
slump
to
so
put
bad they moved him back to sixth or seventh in the order for a while. But he's out of that for the last week. He's been hitting very well. So the only guy that's been hitting well.
Yeah,
So yeah,
the Reds just the only way they can do this is if the bats miraculously come alive. So I realize you and I are betting on something insane here. But I think it could happen. I do. I think if the Reds can pull off a couple one run, two run wins in these first two games, it's possible. But I also think it's extremely possible that they could just get annihilated
oh yeah,
in
yeah,
games one, two.
yeah.
Um, but I love Hunter Green, love watching him pitch. I'd love for him to get to have a statement win tonight that says just because I pitch in the Midwest doesn't mean I'm not a legitimate MLB ace. I really want to see him do a great job tonight. So we are in agreement on all four series.
No,
Um,
we know what that's not a good omen. That's not good
I
for anybody we pick. Very bad for anybody we pick.
I'm really excited for the next episode when we announce that we went 0 for 4. I'm really, really excited for that. That is all the time we have for today. Do you have any final thoughts before we sign off?
A long day of baseball coming up today.
How
I,
fun.
I hope good baseball. I hope it's played well by everybody.
It's the most fun day of baseball for me. It's the closest we get in baseball to March Madness. And I just love that we're going to have an exciting rivalry matchup at noon on a Tuesday. And then we're going to get the big underdog. We're going to get David versus Goliath at night on ESPN. I mean, that is really, really fun baseball, and it is a long, grueling season. And to get a day like this, to enjoy the first day of postseason baseball, no matter who wins or loses, it's just fun to get 10, 12 straight hours of high leverage, exciting postseason baseball. So, listeners, enjoy. We will be enjoying. If you decide I've had enough baseball, my teams are out, come see Ashland Avenue at the Goodman Theatre. If you are a White Sox fan, I promise you will be rewarded by my
Yes,
last at
yes,
the
there is.
play.
We should put out. I don't want to give away
No
much of the play, but
spoilers.
I can say without spoiling it, this is a very Chicago play. It is intensely Chicago play, and there is a moment of White Sox fandom.
I would say it ends surprisingly pro Sox. And the crowd goes nuts and they yell at each other, they boo each other, they cheer for us. It's a cool moment. So if you want to see something really Chicago, come check us out. But if you just want to stay home and watch great playoff baseball, I obviously understand as well. So thanks so much for listening, and we will catch you next time on Sharing Sox.